I never thought the man I built my life with would one day walk out the door and never look back. But that's exactly what happened. After 15 years of marriage, countless sacrifices, and a love I thought was unbreakable, Nathan left me. Not just for anyone, but for a woman nearly half my age. The moment still haunted me. It was a chilly evening, and I had just set the dinner table when he came home, his expression colder than the wind outside. He didn't even sit down. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, avoiding my eyes. "I can't do this anymore, Evelyn," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. I felt my chest tighten. "What? What do you mean?" His silence spoke louder than words. Then he dropped the bomb. "There's someone else." The world around me blurred. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. "Who?" I whispered, already dreading the answer. "Ashley. Ashley." The name tasted bitter in my mouth. She was young, vibrant, and everything I wasn't anymore. I had seen her before, at his office party, clinging to his arm, laughing at his jokes like he was the most fascinating man in the world. I should have known. The late nights, the sudden coldness, the way he had stopped looking at me like I was the love of his life. "I'm sorry, Evelyn," he said, though his tone was anything but apologetic. "I need to be happy." I let out a shaky breath. "And I was just... what? An obligation?" He didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed his suitcase, already packed, and walked out. No hesitation, no second glance. Just like that, 15 years of marriage reduced to a slammed door. I stood there for hours staring at the empty space where he used to be. And then, the pain came. Crippling, soul-crushing pain. I cried until there were no tears left, until my body ached from the weight of betrayal. But something changed that night. As the numbness set in, a quiet realization took its place. Nathan thought he had won. He thought he had discarded me like an old sweater, replacing me with something newer, shinier. But karma was watching, and it had other plans. The days after Nathan left felt like a slow, agonizing death. Everywhere I turned, there were reminders of him. His empty side of the bed, the coffee mug he used every morning, the faint scent of his cologne still lingering in the closet. I wanted to erase him, to pretend he never existed. But how do you erase 15 years of your life? People talk about the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I lived through all of them, but one feeling stood out the most: humiliation. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was discarded. Replaced by someone younger, someone Nathan could show off like a trophy. And the worst part? Everyone knew. It didn't take long for news of our divorce to spread. Friends who once adored me suddenly stopped calling. Neighbors whispered behind my back. Even at the grocery store, I caught people giving me pitying looks, as if I'd been some tragic heroine in a bad soap opera. But the real dagger came when I saw them together. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I had forced myself to go out, trying to reclaim some sense of normalcy. That's when I saw Nathan and Ashley at the cafe we used to go to every weekend. They sat at our usual table, laughing, touching, looking like a picture-perfect couple. My stomach twisted as I watched Ashley lean in, whisper something in his ear. He smiled, the same smile that used to belong to me. I felt sick. I should have walked away, should have spared myself the pain, but my feet wouldn't move. I just stood there, invisible, forgotten, while the man I loved treated another woman the way he once treated me. And then... Ashley looked up. Our eyes met for just a second. Instead of guilt or remorse, I saw something else in her expression: victory. She knew exactly what she had done. She knew she had taken everything from me, and she was proud of it. That was the moment something inside me shifted. The pain, the heartbreak, the humiliation, it all hardened into something else. Something cold. Nathan thought he had won. Ashley thought she had taken my place, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. I went home that night, but I wasn't the same woman who had been abandoned. The Evelyn who cried herself to sleep was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who refused to be a victim. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in the dim light of my living room, staring at the framed wedding photo on the shelf. Nathan and I on the happiest day of our lives? I should have smashed it. Should have thrown it out like he had thrown me away. But I didn't. Instead, I traced my finger over his face, a slow smirk creeping onto my lips. He thought he had walked away unscathed. He thought he had found happiness with his younger, prettier replacement. But I knew something Nathan didn't. Men like him never change. Nathan was addicted to admiration. He needed to be worshipped, needed someone to stroke his ego every second of the day. And Ashley? She was infatuated with the idea of him, the charming, successful man who could offer her a glamorous life. But reality had a way of ruining illusions. I spent the next few weeks carefully observing them, not in a desperate, heartbroken way, but in a calculated, strategic way. Everywhere they went, I took note. The restaurants they dined at, the events they attended, the way Ashley giggled when Nathan whispered in her ear. She was living the fantasy I once did, and I knew exactly when the fantasy would start to crack. Nathan was a man of routine. He loved attention, but he hated responsibility. He was generous in the beginning, extravagant gifts, expensive trips, but he always grew tired. I had been patient when the novelty of our marriage wore off, had fought to keep his interest. But Ashley? She had no idea what was coming. Then the perfect opportunity presented itself. A mutual friend, someone who still pitied me enough to share gossip, mentioned that Nathan and Ashley were planning a lavish engagement party. Not just any party, a grand event at the very hotel where Nathan and I had celebrated our 10th anniversary. It was almost too poetic. I RSVP'd without hesitation. They had no idea I was coming, but I would make sure they never forgot that night. The night of their engagement party, I stood in front of my mirror, smoothing out the folds of my sleek black dress. I had chosen it carefully, elegant yet striking, something that whispered confidence instead of desperation. I wasn't going there as a bitter ex-wife. I was going there as a storm Nathan would never see coming. When I arrived at the hotel, the place was glowing with golden chandeliers, the scent of fresh roses filling the air. Laughter and clinking glasses echoed through the grand ballroom. The guests, Nathan's colleagues, socialites, people who once smiled at me the way they now smiled at Ashley, were all there, oblivious to the truth. I stepped inside, my heels clicking against the marble floor, and all it took was a few seconds before heads started turning. Whispers followed. Some gasped, others exchanged knowing glances, but no one dared approach me. Then I saw them. Nathan stood at the center of the room, dressed in a crisp suit, his arm wrapped possessively around Ashley's waist. She was glowing, draped in a shimmering champagne-colored dress, her diamond ring flashing under the lights. They were the picture of happiness, at least on the surface. I watched as Nathan leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her temple. He had done the same to me once in this very hotel on our anniversary. My fingers tightened around my clutch. It was time. I walked forward, weaving through the crowd, my heart pounding, but not with fear, with anticipation. "Nathan," I called out, my voice smooth, controlled. The moment he turned, his entire body stiffened. Shock flickered in his eyes, quickly masked by something else. Discomfort. For the first time, Ashley hesitated before flashing me a bright, fake smile. "Evelyn, what a surprise." I smiled back, my gaze shifting between them. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Nathan cleared his throat, his grip on Ashley tightening. "You look different." I tilted my head. "I feel different." Ashley looped her arm through his, her nails pressing lightly into his sleeve. "I hope there's no hard feelings," she said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "Nathan and we didn't expect things to happen this way, but love is unpredictable, isn't it?" I let out a soft laugh. She thought she had won. "Oh, Ashley," I said, leaning in just a little. "You're absolutely right. Love is unpredictable, but so is karma." She blinked, confused, but before she could ask what I meant, the sound of glass clinking cut through the air. Nathan's best man stepped forward, raising his champagne flute. "A toast," he announced, smiling, "to new beginnings and everlasting love." The crowd cheered, lifting their glasses. I raised mine too, the corners of my lips curving as I locked eyes with Nathan. He had no idea what was coming next. I held my champagne glass to my lips but didn't take a sip. Instead, I watched as Nathan and Ashley basked in the attention, their smiles wide, their hands intertwined. They thought they were untouchable. The moment the toast ended, the waitstaff moved through the room, refilling glasses and offering hors d'oeuvres. I caught sight of a familiar face, Lena, one of the hotel's event coordinators. She gave me a small, knowing nod. Everything was in place. I moved toward a small, elevated platform near the band, pretending to admire the flower arrangements. The microphone was just within reach. Ashley's laughter rang out, light and airy, as she clung to Nathan's side. "I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she gushed. "This is the happiest night of my life." The crowd clapped, murmuring their approval. Nathan pressed a kiss to her forehead, playing the perfect fiancé, I took a deep breath and without hesitation stepped forward, my heels clicking against the polished floor as I reached for the mic. "Excuse me, everyone," I said, my voice carrying through the room. A hush fell over the crowd. Nathan's head snapped toward me. His face paled. Ashley blinked, clearly caught off guard. "Evelyn." I raised a hand, silencing her. "I just want to say a few words about the man of the hour." I smiled sweetly, watching as Nathan's jaw tightened. Nathan and I, well, we share a lot of history. Uneasy murmurs rippled through the guests. Some exchanged glances, others leaned in, intrigued. Ashley shifted uncomfortably. I continued, my voice smooth. "I remember when Nathan first swept me off my feet. He was charming, attentive, everything a woman could want. I truly believed he was my forever." I paused, letting the tension build. Nathan was glaring now, his hands clenched into fists. "But forever," I added, "isn't really Nathan's style, is it?" A few chuckles scattered through the room. Ashley stiffened. I tilted my head. "Ashley, has he told you what he used to call me? His one and only?" "Oh, wait, no, his soulmate." I gave her a mock pitying look. "I'm guessing he's found a new favorite phrase for you." The color drained from her face. Nathan took a step forward. "It's enough, Evelyn." His voice was low, sharp. I ignored him. "And those late nights at the office when he comes home just a little too tired?" My eyes flicked back to Ashley. "You do know that's how it started with me, right?" Ashley's lips parted slightly, her fingers twitching around her champagne flute. I shrugged, setting my own glass down. "I just wanted to wish you luck, sweetheart." My gaze locked onto hers. "You're going to need it." Silence. Thick, heavy silence. Ashley's hand slowly slipped from Nathan's arm. Doubt had already started creeping into her eyes. Nathan grabbed my wrist, his grip tight. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he hissed. I leaned in close enough for only him to hear. "Just setting the stage," I whispered, "for the grand finale." Then I pulled my hand free, turned on my heel and walked away, leaving behind a room full of whispers, a shaken bride-to-be, and a man whose perfect life was just beginning to crack. I stepped out onto the balcony, the cool night air hitting my skin as I leaned against the railing. Inside, I could still hear the muffled chatter, people trying to make sense of what had just happened. Ashley had gone quiet, Nathan was furious, and I was just getting started. My phone buzzed in my clutch, right on time. I glanced at the screen, a message from Lena. "Everything is in place, just say the word." I exhaled slowly, my heart hammering, not with nerves, but with exhilaration. This wasn't just about humiliating Nathan. It wasn't just about making Ashley doubt everything. It was about justice. About making sure Nathan felt even a fraction of the betrayal he had inflicted on me. I turned, heading back inside. As I re-entered the ballroom, I saw Ashley had stepped away from Nathan. She was whispering to one of her friends, her expression tight. The seed of doubt had been planted. Nathan, on the other hand, was still tense, scanning the room for me. The moment our eyes met, he started toward me, his jaw clenched. "What the hell was that?" he demanded under his breath. "You just humiliated me in front of my entire social circle." I tilted my head, pretending to think. "Oh?" I thought I was just reminiscing. His fingers twitched, like he was fighting the urge to drag me away from the crowd. "Evelyn, you're playing a dangerous game." I leaned in slightly, just enough for my voice to be a whisper only he could hear. "Oh, Nathan," I smiled. "You have no idea how dangerous." He stiffened, confusion flickering across his face. He knew me. He knew I wasn't the kind of woman to create drama without a reason. That's what scared him. He had no idea what was coming next. Before he could say another word, Lena's voice rang out from the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special surprise." The lights dimmed slightly. Right on cue. Nathan's brows furrowed. "What is this?" I just smiled. "Showtime?" The large projector screen at the front of the room flickered to life. At first, it was just static. Then a video began playing. Nathan's voice, his unmistakable, deep, arrogant voice. Ashley turned toward the screen, confused. The crowd fell silent as the video footage became clear. A private conversation, one Nathan never thought would see the light of day. "Ashley's young, naive," his recorded voice said. "She's fun for now, but let's be real, I'll get bored. Just like I did with Evelyn." Gasps filled the room. Ashley's face went white. Nathan stiffened, his eyes wide with horror. "Turn that off," he barked, his voice cutting through the room. But the video continued. "She thinks I love her." His voice continued, followed by a cruel chuckle. "But let's be honest. She was just a distraction while I figured out how to leave Evelyn without losing too much money in the divorce." Murmurs turned into outright whispers. Ashley's breathing became ragged. The video cut off. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Then a single sound. A sharp slap. Ashley's hand was still raised, her chest heaving, her eyes burning with betrayal as Nathan stumbled back from the force of her hit. I watched as her engagement ring trembled on her finger, her hands shaking. "How could you?" she whispered, voice breaking. "Was any of it real?" Nathan looked around, panic setting in. "Ashley, you know I..." "Don't," she snapped. "Don't lie to me, not now." The crowd was watching. Everyone was watching. Ashley let out a shaky breath, then, in one swift motion, yanked the ring off her finger and threw it at his chest. Nathan flinched as it hit him, but he didn't move to pick it up. Ashley turned on her heel, pushing past the stunned guests as she rushed toward the exit. And just like that, his perfect life unraveled in front of everyone. I stood there, my heart steady, my expression unreadable. Nathan slowly turned to me, his eyes dark with rage. "You think you've won?" he hissed. I met his gaze, my lips curving into a slow, knowing smile. "Oh, Nathan," I murmured. "I'm just getting started." Nathan stormed toward me, his face flushed with fury. "You think you can ruin me?" he hissed, his voice low but sharp. I held my ground, my expression calm. He was unraveling just as I had planned. "This isn't over, Evelyn," he spat. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." I arched a brow. "Oh, but I do, Nathan. I know exactly what kind of man you are." The room was still buzzing with murmurs. People were watching, their gazes darting between us, waiting to see what would happen next. I had turned his perfect engagement night into a public disaster, but I wasn't finished yet. Nathan inhaled sharply as if trying to control himself. "You're pathetic," he sneered, bitter and desperate. I chuckled softly. Bitter? Maybe. But desperate? Not even close. I turned away, leaving him standing there, his fists clenched. But as I walked toward the exit, I felt his presence behind me. He was following me. I reached the coat check, grabbing my purse and slipping my phone into my hand. Nathan's voice was right behind me. "You don't get to walk away from this." I turned slowly, meeting his glare head on. "Or what?" I asked, tilting my head. "You'll do what exactly, Nathan? Because from where I'm standing, you're the one who just lost everything." His jaw tightened. "You think you can play with me?" I took a slow step forward, lowering my voice. "I didn't play with you, Nathan. I exposed you. There's a difference." He exhaled sharply, his anger barely contained. I glanced down at my phone and tapped the screen. Within seconds, I received a single-word text from Lena. "Done." I smiled. "Perfect." Nathan must have sensed something because his eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" I slipped my phone into my bag. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough." Before he could respond, my car pulled up outside. The valet opened the door for me and I stepped in, settling into the seat. As the car pulled away, I glanced out the window, watching Nathan stand there, his face a mask of confusion and rage. He had no idea what was coming next. Because this was just the beginning. 15 minutes later, I walked into my penthouse, kicking off my heels. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Lena. "Check the news." I grabbed the remote and turned on the TV, and there it was. Breaking news: Nathan Carter under investigation for fraud and embezzlement. I smirked, sinking into the couch. Karma had arrived. Nathan's face filled the screen, a photo of him looking smug and confident, the same look he had when he betrayed me. But now, beneath his image, bold red letters spelled out his downfall. Prominent businessman Nathan Carter under investigation, accused of financial misconduct, fraud, and embezzlement. The news anchor's voice was steady, professional, but I knew the weight of what she was saying. Sources confirm that multiple financial irregularities have been uncovered in Carter Enterprises, leading to an ongoing investigation by authorities. If proven guilty, Nathan Carter could face severe legal consequences, including prison time. I exhaled slowly, watching as the reality of my revenge unfolded. The world was finally seeing him for who he really was. My phone rang. "Lena," I answered immediately. "Tell me." Her voice was smug. "It worked. The files we sent to the authorities, they matched with the anonymous reports from the whistleblowers inside his company. The IRS is already digging into his records. And get this, investors are pulling out. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the satisfaction sink in. Nathan had spent years building an empire, playing the perfect businessman, all while using loopholes and shady deals to keep his wealth intact. But he had made one mistake. He underestimated me. Lena continued, his accounts are frozen and his assets are being reviewed. If he doesn't have a legal loophole, he could lose everything. Everything. Nathan had walked away from me thinking he had won. He thought I would be just another discarded woman, left to pick up the pieces while he moved on to his next prize. But I wasn't like the others. I glanced at the screen again, my fingers tightening around my phone. The news had already spread across social media. His reputation was crumbling in real time. People who once admired him were now questioning everything. Just then, my phone buzzed again. Nathan. I let it ring. He had nothing to say that I wanted to hear, but then another message popped up. Meet me. Now, you owe me that much. I stared at the screen, debating. Did I owe him anything? Number. But did I want to see him suffer up close? Absolutely. So I typed a single response. Fine. One last time. As I grabbed my coat and headed toward the door, I couldn't help but smile. Nathan wanted to talk. I wanted to watch him break. I arrived at the dimly lit bar Nathan had chosen, a place we used to visit when things were good, before I saw his true colors. Now, it felt like a graveyard of broken promises. Nathan was already there, sitting in a secluded booth at the back, his face half hidden in the shadows. But he wasn't the same confident man who had once walked away from me without a second thought. His shoulders were tense, his eyes darted nervously. His hands, usually steady and controlled, gripped a glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. I took my time walking over, letting him feel the weight of my presence, letting him wonder just how much I had done. When I finally sat across from him, he didn't waste time. What the hell did you do? His voice was low, strained. I tilted my head, feigning innocence. Me? I didn't do anything, Nathan. Karma, on the other hand? I leaned forward. Well, she works fast. His jaw clenched. Don't play games with me, Evelyn. My company is falling apart. The feds are after me. I've lost millions in a single day. You think this is a coincidence? I smirked. I think it's justice. Nathan exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. He looked desperate. Evelyn, listen to me. His voice softened the same way it used to when he wanted something. You've made your point, but you don't understand what's happening. I need your help. I raised an eyebrow. He was actually begging me. My help? I repeated, amused. You must be joking. Nathan shook his head. You don't get it. Someone is setting me up. This fraud, some of it is real, but not all of it. Someone's making sure I go down for more than what I did. I laughed. You expect me to feel sorry for you? After everything you did? His hands curled into fists. Evelyn, I know I hurt you, but think. If someone's powerful enough to bring me down like this, do you really think they'll stop with me? I froze for a moment, studying him. Was he lying? Or was there something more to this? Nathan leaned in. You think you destroyed me, but someone else had the same plan, and they're playing a bigger game. His voice dropped lower. If you don't stop them, you might be next. A shiver ran down my spine. I had spent months orchestrating Nathan's downfall. I had planned every move, every twist. But was I really the only one? For the first time, I felt a flicker of doubt. Had I unknowingly walked into something bigger? Nathan watched my reaction carefully. He could see that I wasn't as sure as before. Help me, Evelyn, he pressed. If not for me, then for yourself. I should have walked away. I should have let him drown. But something about his fear felt real, and I had a sinking feeling that this wasn't over yet. I sat back, my pulse steady but my mind racing. Was he bluffing? Or had I underestimated the game I was playing? Nathan's fear wasn't fake. He was genuinely terrified, and that's what unsettled me the most. I don't trust you, I said, my voice cold. You're a liar, a manipulator. How do I know this isn't just another one of your tricks? He let out a bitter laugh. Evelyn, if I were lying, I wouldn't be sitting here begging you. I'd be fixing this on my own. His fingers drummed against the table, restless. You think you ruined me, but someone else made sure I had no way out. I narrowed my eyes. Who? Nathan hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. He knew exactly who it was, and he was afraid to say the name. I leaned forward. Nathan, if you want my help, you tell me everything, right now. He exhaled shakily, his gaze shifting around the room as if someone was listening. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, Dominic Ward. I froze. I knew that name. Everyone in high society did. Dominic Ward wasn't just rich. He was untouchable. A man who had built his empire on quiet destruction. Someone who could ruin lives with a single phone call. Nathan swallowed hard. He was my biggest investor, but he wasn't just funding my company. He was using it to launder money, to move assets. When I tried to cut ties, everything started falling apart. I felt my stomach tighten. Nathan wasn't the only one in danger. If Dominic had orchestrated Nathan's downfall, that meant he knew everything. And if he knew everything, he knew about me. The air between us shifted, the weight of a new, unforeseen threat pressing down. I had spent months thinking I was the mastermind of this revenge, but now I wasn't so sure. I stood up. Nathan grabbed my wrist. Evelyn, don't walk away. We have to stop him before he turns on you, too. I yanked my hand free. I don't have to do anything, Nathan. My voice was steady, but inside my thoughts were spiraling. Nathan wasn't the victim here. He had built his empire on lies and greed. He deserved to burn. But if Dominic Ward was playing his own game, that meant my revenge had only been the beginning. I turned to leave. Nathan's voice stopped me. You think you won, Evelyn? You didn't. You just woke up something bigger. I didn't turn back, because for the first time since this all started, I wasn't sure if I had won, or if I had just stepped into an even deadlier game.